Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's DAF. Bava Kamma DAF Ayin Beis. We are holding 4 lines off the top of the Yamid. Hashaychet v'nimtzes treifa v'chulu. In the Mishnah we learn that if one does shechita on a stolen animal and it's either discovered to be a terefa, non-kosher, as some sort of internal wound, or in the second case, which is actually going to be the focus of our sugya now, he stole an animal and did the shechita in the azara, in the Beis Hamikdash. That's called sheichet chulin, a non-carbon animal. He did the shechita be'azara. Halacha is, despite the shechita that took place, the animal is forbidden. It's asur, even bahana. One cannot benefit from the animal. However, the Mishnah says, if a ganav stole an animal and does the tvicha, the shechita and the azara, it triggers the dalad v'hei payment. The question is why? Amar lei, Rav Chavivi Mechuzna, he asked the question of Rav Ashi, Shema Mino. It would appear from this halacha that, there's a question, a general question discussed many times throughout Shas. When does the act of shechita commence? When does it begin? From that first slit, and it's continuous all the way through till the end meaning when he does the shechita on the windpipe and the food pipe, so it's either completely or a majority, a roiv of the 2 simanim are shechted. That's the completion, but it began all the way back when he started the act of shechita. That's called yeshna l'shechita mitchila v'atsoif. Or shall we say, the act of shechita gets triggered only at that last moment when he completes it. It would appear from the Mishnah, Shema Mino, the second side. Shema Mino eina l'shechita el b'soif. Shechita only happens at the very end. It's not a continuous act. How do we know that? Because otherwise the halacha wouldn't work. Because if we shall suppose that the act of shechita begins at that first moment of cut, so picture this ganav in the azara doing a shechita. As soon as he starts, given the shachat b'porta, even just a drop, there you go, asra. The animal is now asra because the shechita took place in the azara. And we know that once the animal becomes asr and the owner has no benefit from it, it's considered like ownerless, like hefker. So idach, when the ganav continues his shechita all the way through, loy de marika tavach, he's doing a shechita on a animal which is asr, which pretty much is considered ownerless. It doesn't relate to its owner. Owner has nothing from it. So that's not considered phase 2 of his robbery. He's not robbing from anybody. Why is he chayiv dalad v'hei? Apparently, the answer is that shechita only takes place at the very end of the ma'aser shechita. So until that very last moment, the animal is still mutter, because the halacha, the isur of chulin bazara, only kicks in at the very end, and therefore he's chayiv for all the shechita that he did until that very moment, which involved tvicha on the owner's animal. Amar lei, Rav Huna breid Rava. No, so Rav Huna responded, you can't prove anything from here. Kika machayev ahu porta. Perhaps shechita starts at the very beginning. Chulin bazar becomes asr right away. Your question was, well, then why is he chayev for shechita? Tvicha. Dal v'hei. It's not the owner's. On that very little bit, kika machayev ahu porta, that first bit, which generates the isser, that very bit is enough to trigger dal v'hei, because at that very moment it was still the owner's animal. Amar Rav Ashi. No, so Rav Ashi responds, Lo titchi. Don't use this argument to sort of push it aside. You cannot say that the chiv dal v'hei for the shechita is on account of that first little bit. Utvachei, the pasuk says, a complete tvicha. You don't have that here. Elokasha. So it's back to the question: why is he chayiv? Amar lei. He responded, Hachi Amar Rav Gam b'mishmei de Rava. He quotes Rava. We're speaking about an unusual case. What happened was the Ganav took the animal, the chulin animal, and began the shechita. It was standing right, at the entranceway to the Azara. So he did part of the shechita outside, part of the siman and esophagus and one part outside, but he didn't cross the shechita threshold yet. It was only partial, but he didn't really do a legal shechita. So at that early point, it's considered tzvicha on the owner's animal. It's not yet asr. Ugamram bifnim. But then, at that very moment, mid shechita, he brought it into the azar and he completed it inside. So that made it asr. But at that moment, he was already finished his shechita, so it triggers dalad v'hei. Beautiful. Ikad demas naha. Others apply this whole back and forth discussion directly on a machlokes between two amiroim. How do we define the act of shechita? Amar Rab Shimon mishum Rabbi Levi Saba. Ein el shechita el basoif. Shechita only happens at the end of the shechita. Rabbi Yehuda Amar yeshna shechita b'tchilat soif. No, the act of shechita starts at the very first moment and is a continuous act. What would be the difference? Says Rashi. Very simple. Nafkemina leinan hamachashiv, about 7-8 lines from the bottom. Ein el shechita ein shechita nikris el basoif. Says Rashi. Nafkemina. What's the difference? Is it just a theoretical engagement here? No, it has very practical ramifications. Imagine a person brings a carbon, and as he's bringing the carbon, he has improper intentions. I'm doing it. I'm bringing the oila, but I really want it to be a chatos, etc., etc. So those thoughts and expressions affect the animal, make it possible, provided it took place during one of the, four primary avodos, four primary activities with the associated with the processing of the carbon. One of which is shechita. So let's say he had this thought, this plan, at the beginning of the shechita. Is it considered during shechita or not? Very simple question. So if you say the shechita is only at the end, eino machshava elam ken chishav b'sev shechita. Machshava only takes effect if it was present at the end of the shechita, when the shechita takes effect. But if you hold, says Rashi, mitchil vat soif, it's a continuous act. Bava Kamma dechashiv havi machshava. Anytime within that shechita, a machshava can affect it. Okay, so straightforward. Machlekes, is shechita continuous or is it a one-moment thing? So basically, we're going to go review the whole back and forth pertaining to our Mishnah. So he told Rav Ashi, Lema kasav Rabbi Yehuda. Apparently, Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that shechita only takes place at the end, that shechita is a continuous activity from beginning to end. He will hold, in order to reconcile our Mishnah in Bava Kamma, he will have to hold chulin nishchatu bazara lavdei raisa. That if one does shechita on chulin bazara, even though it's asur, it's not manat, because otherwise, how would you explain the Mishnah, which says that if one steals an animal and did the shechita in the azara, he pays dalad v'hei? The halacha wouldn't work. Because if the shechita ba'azara makes it asur minat Torah, so the animal's out of bounds. It's asur already from that first moment. Once he does that first bit, asur makes it asur. It's no longer relating to the owner. So the rest of the shechita doesn't relate to the owner, who has nothing from it anymore. No, you don't have to go that far. Suppose shechita begins from starts from the beginning of the act and is continuous, and we could say chulin ba'azara is asur minat Torah. But the reason why the ganav was chayiv is for that first bit before it became asur. No, you can't use that as an answer. But pasuk specifies it has to be a complete shechita. You don't have that. So back to the question. He responded, the Rava, right? Was speaking the only reason why it's chayiv dalad is because he began the shechita outside, in which case it still belonged to the owner, still mutter, and he completed it inside. So ultimately the tvicha was on an animal which was mutter. Okay, so bottom line is we have an interesting machlekes. How to define the act of shechita? Is it does it manifest at that last moment? Nafkamina is for machashiv v'kotchim. Nafkamina is for the halacha of chulin ba'azara. When does it become asur? Or do we say it's one continuous act from beginning to end? The question from the Mishnah was answered. Continues the next Mishnah. Ganav bishnaim. The fellow steals an animal and was incriminated by two Eidim. So a pair of Eidim come and tell us Reuben stole the animal. And phase 2 as well was done based on their testimony. He stole and he did the shchita. Turns out they're falsifiers, they're plotters. So basically, another pair of Eidim came along. How could you testify that you were present when this fellow robbed and did the shchita on Sunday morning in New York? You were with us in Chicago on that very same morning. So the first pair now become Eidim Zomim, they're plotters. And the pasuk says, Mishal Menakol, they have to pay anything that they intended to obligate the victim there. Now, Ganav al Bishnaim, two Eidim presented that he stole. And another two Eidim presented that he did Tvicha Mechira, which triggered the extra payments above the kefil, the double payment that he pays based on the first pair. It's been discovered that both pairs of Eidim are plotters, so they split the pot. The first pair of Eidim, who alleged that he stole, which would trigger the kefil payment, they pay kefil. Meshalman, Tashlim kefil. But the second pair, who wanted to add to that, on top of the kefil, which is a double payment, they wanted to add another 3, for a total of 5. Meshalman, they pay the extra 3. Tashlim gimel. Now, Nimtzu Achronim Zemimin. One pair spoke about him stealing. One pair spoke about him doing the shchita. The second pair was Zemimin. But the first pair is still intact. So we assume that he stole, but he didn't do the tvicha. Who mishal tashlume kefil? So the robber still pays double, based on the testimony of the first Eidim. Vein mishalman tashlume gimel. The second pair, which were discovered to be Zemimin, they pay the extra 3, which they intended on obligating him. Now the halacha is that unless the entire pair of Eidim becomes Zemimin, the halacha of Eidim Zemimin doesn't kick in. So let's say one of them turns out to be a falsifier. Echad ben achronim Zemimin. One pair spoke about him stealing. One pair of Eidim spoke about him doing the shchita. One member of the second pair turns out to be a Zemin. So there's no halacha of Eidim Zemimin in terms of them paying what they intended on, making him lose. But, the Eidos is certainly, null and void, because if one of the Eidim turns out to be false, you don't have a pair of Eidim, you need two. But Eidos Shnia. So the second pair is batal, and the Ganav still pays his kefil. But let's say one member of that first pair of Eidim who alleged that he stole turned out to be a Zomim, one member of that pair. So now that first pair of Eidim is pretty much null and void, because one of their members turns out to be a Zaymin, so you don't have two. And now listen to this. It triggers an avalanche, because basically you pull out the rug from the whole story, because if you can't substantiate, you can't establish that he stole, then the whole story doesn't begin. You can't have phase 2, Tvicha Mechira, without phase 1. So Bava Kamma, this entire testimony, entire episode now dissipates. Why? Shem Ein Gneva. If you can't establish that he stole, and Tvicha and Mechira, you can't establish anything else either, so he gets away scot-free. On the topic of Eidim Zomim, how does it work? Itma, we have a discussion between Abaye and Rava. Eid Zomim. Abaye Amal Mafreya Nifsal. So, suppose the Eidim, we're calling him an Eid Zomim, but obviously we're speaking about a pair of Eidim. So, a pair of Eidim testify on Sunday that this and this happened. On the next Sunday, another pair of Eidim come and make them Zaymin. Right? Disprove their testimony, they become Eidim Zaymin. So, what happens during that week? What happens to anything that they did during that week? Let's say they testified, in a different case about something else. What is their status within that interim period? It's been discovered today that they falsified last week's testimony. Right? So they puzzle from then, sort of retroactively, and anything they did from then till now is puzzle, or is it something only going forward? Itmar, Eid Zayim, Abaye Amar, retroactive. We go backwards. L'mafreyahu nifsal. Rav Amar no. Mekanu labo nifsal. Their status of psul only starts from today going forward. The Gemara explains why. Abaye Amar Mafreya nifsal. Very pashut, very simple. Because when did they offer that false testimony? Last week. Mahu shata da asid. From the moment that he testified falsely, Havali Rasha. Turns out that he's a Rasha. He's an evil, wicked fellow. Atayra Amra. Torah says, don't associate with a Rasha. Don't believe his testimony. Al tashes Rasha aid. Don't allow the Rasha to serve as an aid. And that status, that label, is granted to him from last week, when he actually offered that false testimony, although it was only discovered today. Rav Amar no. Mekanu labo nifsal. His psul status begins today, going forward. Why? Eid zomim chidushu. The whole idea of making an aid into eid zomim is something of an anomaly, something unusual. Why? What's so unusual about it? After all, it's just my word against yours. It's 2 against 2. We come and say, well, how can you allege to have been present at that location at that time? Because you're with us at a different place at that very moment. Now, Torah says we believe the second pair of Edom. First pair becomes Edom Zaymin. Who says? It's 2 against 2. My chaz is the Tzayis Lahani. Who says you believe the second pair? Perhaps Tzayis Lahani believe the first pair. But the Torah gives a chiddush. It says, no, this is different. You're usurping their whole edus and their whole status. But bottom line is, Hilkach, therefore, Ein Lecha Bo Ela Mishas Chidush Ve'elach. You only have a right to apply this label, to give them this status starting from now. So basically what he's saying is, we haven't necessarily, verified beyond doubt that last week they were false, that they spoke falsely. We just know that Torah says they get a status of Edom Zaymin based on this, confrontation. Okay, going forward from now on. But don't give them that status retroactively. There's another version of this explanation as to why Rava insists to give them the Eid Zaymin label only going forward. Rava not mekabai svirli. Theoretically, Rava agrees with Abaye. Logic says that it's retroactive. That's when they the Amar Mafreya Nifsal V'achan Mitami the Rava. So why does Rava switch it? Mishum Pseided Lekuches. A special takana that the Chachamim were concerned. Somebody purchased a field in the middle of that week, utilizing these Eidim, not totally unaware of the fact that these Eidim are apostle or Rasha, right? So now if you're going to disqualify all their testimony from the past week, you're going to pretty much get all the customers and buyers in trouble, because they'll no longer have their documents to be valid. So therefore we sort of maintain the Eidim's status throughout the week until today. Might be now. So basically we have 2 reasons to Rava's approach of Mekanu Labo. Either it's the fact that the whole thing is really a chiddush and therefore makes sense to start from today, or a special concern for the lekuches. Any difference between 2 reasons? Very, very simple. We have 2 nafkaminas. Dasidu beitrei lechad, trei lechad. So typically, how do we make Edom Zaymin? A pair of Edom come and speak about the fact that the other pair were not in the in that location at that time. So it's really 2 against 2, which creates the whole issue of the chiddush and whatever, right? Let's say instead of 2 against 2, come next Sunday, 2 pairs of Edom came to confront the first pair. 1 pair confronted 1 member of the first pair, you with us at that other location, and another pair, 2 more people, another pair come and confront the second single member of that original pack. So it's 2 against 1 here and 2 against 1 here. Trei lechad v'trei lechad. It's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming power. That's not a chiddush. It's not balanced. Trei v'trei. So here it's not a chiddush. And that 2 can disqualify 1, and therefore, in this case, even Rava would agree that he would be puzzled going back, retroactive from day 1. In another case, the paslinu begat lanusa. Suppose today's Edom are not speaking about location, you with us at the other location. That's a chiddush that we believe. Rather, they're not confronting them directly in terms of facts and figures. You guys are robbers. We know that you stole money, so that makes them puzzled. So they're sort of disqualifying them from a totally different angle. So here you can say, well, who says believe the second pair maybe believe the first. It's a totally different thing that they're speaking of. If we're speaking about a standard confrontation, you speak about a story that took place in this location at this time. What are you talking about? You are with us. You are now company at the other place at that time. So they're sort of really directly confronting them. That's a chiddush that we believe the second pair. But here, they're not doing that. They're saying, look, sure, you were there and maybe it happened. We're not discussing that. We're not going into your story, whether or not it happened. We're coming to testify about your status. You guys are robbers. You apostle Eidos. So here, it's simple that we believe the second pair. The Gemara explains. So according to the second pshat that we're concerned about customers having unwittingly used these eidim throughout the week, so even in these two situations, we still maintain the kashrus of the eidim to enable the documents to be valid. But if it's because of the issue of chiddush, and we have no right to go back, but in these two cases, it makes perfect sense to go back and make them puzzle from last week. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Medifte Avad Rapapa Uvda Kavasei Rava. It so happens that Rav Papa once had a story with Eidim Zayman, and he followed Rava's approach. Mekano Lahaba. Rav Ashi Amar no. Hilchas Kavasei Abaye. We meant to follow Abaye. It's retroactive, and that's how the Gemara paskins. Hilchas Kavasei Abaye. We paskin like Abaye in just 6 situations throughout Shas. Typically, we paskin like Rava. But in 6 places, we paskin like Abaye, and this is one of them. Ya'al Kagam. So it's an acronym. Ya'al Kagam. And the ayin of Ya'al, it going on the Eid Zayimim, we paskin Eid Zayimim, Mafreya Hu Nifsal. All the best to you and Atzlocha.